All right, Ryan Everett, we're getting into the middle of this top 10 on this WrestleMania countdown. We are here to talk about the jabroni beating, pie eating, trailblazing, eyebrow raising, all around smack it down, people's champ, The Rock. When you think WrestleMania, you in The Rock, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Kind of gonna cheat with my answer here, but the first thing is the 3-match series with Steve Austin. I think, all three of those are kind of different matches, but it's all the same storyline still also in a way. It's really interesting how they did that, I think.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get into it. But either way, I say we just kind of just dive right into it. The Rock is interesting. He evolved so much that a lot of his iterations really shine or really touch on at WrestleMania, which is really cool. First one being the Sultan, WrestleMania 13. He's the Intercontinental Champion. Meltzer, 1.25. Canton, 1 star. I gave it 1.5. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. It's everyone, I think, admits Blue Chipper Rocky Maivia just wasn't going to connect in 1997.
Hey, what about him? The Rock Maivia. Yeah.
Now, this kid's a blue chipper right here. It is what it is. It's relatively short, at least. It's not.
Yeah, it's 9 minutes, almost closer to 10. I do like the moment for The Rock to have the moment with his dad at the end. That's pretty cool. Of course, the Sultan is Rikishi, so you have the Sheiky baby, and then you have Bob Backlund.
Really I think this is the Sultan's only singles match on pay-per-view. And he'd already been around for probably 6 months, and he just kind of shows up out of nowhere here for the IC title match. I think the rumor was it was supposed to be Mero, I think, at the beginning of the year. And then he tore up his knee, so they kind of had nothing until a couple of weeks before. I think they just kind of microwaved this.
Yeah, very weird. And it's cool that in retrospect here, as we get into WrestleMania 40, his first iteration at WrestleMania is a Bloodline member, even if it is under the mask and it's relatively bad. All right, but next year, Ken Shamrock, Intercontinental Championship again, 4 minutes, 45 seconds. Meltzer, 1.5. Canton, 3/4, and I gave it 2 stars. This is more of an angle than a match, which is why the star rating is so bad. But overall, it's very memorable. The first memorable part of it is the Jennifer Flowers interview.
I was going to mention, the match itself is low down on the level of important moments, but definitely the Jennifer Flowers interview, he starts coining some of his most famous phrases.
Yes. And then this would boil over to the next night with Farouk kind of running in and just doing the forget about him.
Forget about it.
So this was definitely a big transition for The Rock. Not more of a moment, pivotal moment, of course, but the match kind of hurts him resume-wise and kind of star average-wise in a way. So I don't really necessarily think this is a ding, but like The Rock at WrestleMania 13, we got Rocky Maivia. WrestleMania 14, we got The Rock in the Nation.
Yeah, and like you said, the match itself is nothing great, but it's clear they knew what they wanted to do with him. They give him the big celebrity moment with Jennifer Flowers. They give him the angle for the next night is put in motion, like you said. And then this also ends with a great visual of him on the stretcher, bloodied, holding up the belt as the decision was reversed. So that's always, whenever you have a heel gloating from the stretcher, I think that's a great move.
Yeah, he's fantastic this whole night in establishing himself as The Rock. All right, and then do you think at 15 he was accelerated into the main event scene, or do you think it was warranted as he faced Stone Cold Steve Austin in a no DQ match for the WWF Championship match? Meltzer, 3.5, Canton, 3.5, and I went 4. I think it's great.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I think it's, I've been watching through 98 into 99, and it's very logical. It's not like he just gets rocket shipped out. He's the IC champ. He's building up. The SummerSlam match, he loses the belt, but the fans start cheering him also. And then they do the fake out with, it's not really a face turn. It's been a heel turn the whole time. The Survivor Series, it makes sense for him to be the guy. Who else would be the corporate champ with this guy? 2 years ago, look at all the promos they did just when he was coming in. So it kind of all made sense that he's the guy they want. And when I was thinking about this at first, I was like, is it really Austin versus The Rock with just kind of being Vince's avatar? But no, it's definitely The Rock versus Steve Austin. And the Vince is a huge part of it, but they build it up that it's these two guys going at it.
Yeah, and then so overall, this is his 6th best WrestleMania match of all time, and it's warranted as an all-time match because I went 4 on it. And again, just to remind everyone, if someone goes over 4 stars out of one of the Raiders here, it is considered as an all-time match for us here. WrestleMania 16, a weird WrestleMania in a weird main event, 4-way elimination match for the WWF Championship again. So 4 WrestleMania matches, 4 title matches for The Rock this time against The Big Show, Triple H, and Mick Foley. 38 goddamn minutes is way too long. The longest WrestleMania match of all time, not including the Iron Man. And I think Edge surpassed it with Randy Orton, but either way, way too long. Meltzer 3, Canton 3 1/4, and I went 3 on it. I just think it's good. It's just way too long.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. They obviously want to get the Big Show on there because he was the big signing the year before, and it's nice to get Foley in there. But I think even with the same ending, even with the Vince screwjob, if you had a nice 25-minute Triple H Rock match, which you essentially get here tacked on anyways. But I think if you had done that, it would have worked a little bit better. People still would have been pissed about the ending, but at least you got there a little quicker. Maybe that helps it.
Yeah. It's just the miss, but that's kind of the cadence of WrestleMania 2000. And that's crazy too, because 2000 is like an all-time year for this company.
Year, but they're big events. They kind of mess up places.
You still got the Attitude Era swag and the big stars and everything, and then you got the work rate guys bolstering it, working with the Attitude Era guys, and they're having like all-time matches. So for WrestleMania 2000 to be so weird, it just never ever made sense for me.
Yeah, it's a weirdly booked show. The only singles match being Terry versus the Cat. That's an odd way to go for your biggest show of the year.
Number 392 on our WrestleMania countdown right there.
Almost
all right.
About
yeah, actually, that might have been a little high. It might have been lower than that. All right, WrestleMania 17, my personal favorite. Me and Justin's very high in our top 5, I would say, but I goddamn adore this match. WWF Championship match again against Stone Cold Steve Austin. Again, no DQ. 28 minutes, 7 seconds. Meltzer, 4.5. Too low, sandbagged him. Canton 5, and I'm at 5 for a 4.83 star rating average. The Rock's best WrestleMania match on this list.
I'd say probably 3rd best WrestleMania match. Not to spoil your rankings or anything, but
you're in the ballpark.
They were the 2 biggest stars at 15, but here it's like there's no doubt about it. They're the 2 biggest stars in wrestling by now. And it's, neither one is really bigger than the other. I always people, say, oh, the storyline was, I think it's actually a really good build because it's the
face
Rock.
For space.
Yeah. And it's Austin has that moment of doubt. Like they actually mentioned it in the video game that came out this year more than they ever mentioned it on TV, I think. Like how he had doubt because he lost to Triple H at No Way Out. So he didn't know if he still was the best, if he could beat The Rock. So he had to make a deal with the devil to win. And it works out great.
I love the match. Instantly, they pick up. There's no fucking feeling each other out. They know each other. They're the biggest rivals, and they know that they have to brawl and get these guys to each other to a bloody pulp. They got to beat them into submission, and they got to wear them down, and they waste no fucking time. This is fantastic. I think it's closer to 13 than it's not for like an all-time garbage brawl. It needs to have the respect of 13. 13 is all time. It's the best match in WrestleMania history. But I think this needs the respect of the aura of 13. That's my hottest take.
As great as 13 is, this is for the belt, which that's the one thing you can say.
Mid-card.
Yeah, that's the one thing. I mean, I don't hold that against 13, but that's something you can't deny that this is the world title main event.
Yep. And all right. And then again, a different cadence here at 18. But again, let's just rewind and talk about the evolution of The Rock before we kind of get into the 18 match, because it's going to make sense. Rocky Maivia, the Nation, the Corporation champ. Then the young new face of the company, baby face of The Rock at 16. And then you have the legacy baby face against the legacy baby face. And then at 18, you have the start of The Rock being the legend. He's starting to go to Hollywood. He's been around the block for a while. And then the old guard is coming by, and he's going to kind of, is he on the immortal level? Quite the evolution of The Rock here at WrestleMania. I said this in our Rewind with Justin. This is the most rewatchable match in WrestleMania history, in my opinion. And they don't even go out there and do a shitload. But they didn't have to. They're in Toronto. It's cheating for Hogan. The Rock's dad grabs The Rock and says, "Hey, he's fucking good. Watch it out there." And then The Rock, cocky, arrogant. Yeah. Okay, Dad. What is your overall thought on 18? I think it's super rewatchable and I love it.
Yeah, I think, calling it rewatchable is a great way to do it because it's not, the greatest technical match. If you just look at the story of, the old guard trying to test out the new best guy and overlook the semi-truck run over that I was happy enough to be live at, which was quite the boring night of television because they literally did like a 25-minute segment outside. But if you look past that and just think about, the best from the old generation against the best of this generation, it works so great. And there is, I know what you're talking about with Hogan kind of eating him up, but there's a moment where you see it switch in The Rock's head where he's like, okay, I'm going to have to be the heel. And he starts, bad mouth, trash talking the crowd. He whips Hogan with the belt, which is just great.
Scrapes the eyes, breaks the belt. Yep.
Yeah, that's like The Rock just showing how much of a pro he is and how much he can just turn on what the crowd's going to react to.
Yeah, it just shows how keen he is in this business, so to speak, right? And you see that a little bit this year where he felt the crowd and he adapted.
Yeah.
But anyways, Meltzer 3. I'm curious if Dave would give that now a 3.
So
calm the fuck down, Dave. Like, don't take yourself so serious.
In his, Hogan shouldn't be wrestling anymore phase. So Hogan's getting like a minus a star right off the bat, unless it's something special.
Yeah, such bullshit. I'm not going to go all 24-inch podcast on us here, but Hogan's so hated that he's low-key underrated in a way. Canton 4, and I went 4 3/4. It's not a 5 for me because Hogan's offense is kind of to the point that they are dissing it. Some of Hogan's stuff is so brutally bad, but he is like a 55, close to 60-year-old man.
Yeah, I love when he busts up the abdominal stretch pin, which I had only seen as a special in the Revenge game, but here he actually busted out in real life.
Hey, brother, when you're over, you don't have to do that much.
No, you don't.
But again, just to put a stamp on that, the most rewatchable match in WrestleMania history, in my humble opinion. All right, and then 19, a singles match, 17 minutes, 55 seconds against Stone Cold Steve Austin. Meltzer 4, Canton 4 1/4, and myself 4 1/4. Stone Cold Steve Austin's actually second best WrestleMania match of all time for a 4.17 star rating. A little low, if you would think, for overall, but he gets sandbagged in a lot of stuff. Like the Hogan match is fucking better at 18. So it's like he has some high-end stuff. Cena stuff is kind of a little sandbagged in my opinion. But overall, this is a really good match. And I like how, of course, Austin was dehydrated the night before and all that stuff. So he's not 100%. But I do like how 15 was a garbage brawl. 17 was the definition of a garbage brawl, but like amplified times 2. And then this one, for the most part, was in ring. They went in there and had an actual wrestling match, and it delivered on the same level as the other two. And I like how The Rock won in that style and dictated the pace, because we're getting Hollywood Rock here. Just to add another layer to his character evolution at WrestleMania, we get Hollywood Rock here. So finally, he's able to overcome Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania, and he changes the pace. Hollywood Rock goes to get smart and has an in-ring wrestling match with Stone Cold Steve Austin instead of catering to Stone Cold's strength of a garbage brawl. But overall, my most memorable thing in this match is when The Rock goes out and puts the Stone Cold vest on, and that's iconically great. But overall, what's your thought on 19?
Yeah, I think it's definitely different than the first two matches. It seems a lot more personal. Also, like I think the storyline going into this was how, now it's The Rock that has to win this match. He has to prove that he's at the very least as good as Stone Cold Steve Austin, but in his mind, even better. And that's, I think, a little different than the first two, where The Rock was kind of, the defending champion. He didn't really see that he had to prove himself. Whereas this one, it's more personal to him than the first two were. And yeah, The Rock is Hollywood Rock, just great hamming it up. Yep. Puts on the vest, does the stunner. We got an Austin rock bottom also, which is always fun to see. Yeah, it's awesome. And at the end, it's kind of just like The Rock just defeats Steve Austin, who's done. Like Steve Austin gives it his all, but just at the end, he can't hang anymore with The Rock.
I love the moment too at the end where they kind of embrace each other and they have the words, and it's prolonged, but it's good. It's not like out of pocket or anything crazy. It's just like, it's kind of like grabs you a little bit, that these two rivals.
Once you know what it is and stuff. Rock says, "I love you." Austin says the same thing. It definitely adds a little something extra knowing that behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, very, very cool. I love that moment. What I do love about this next match is this pre-match promo with The Rock and Sock. Another iteration of The Rock. We get friendly Rock here. He's doing his boy Mick Foley good, and he is having his back against Plucky Evolution and Ric Flair. And I love that the Superfly and Don Morocco, the Hamburglar.
Eat some chicken nuggets, you fat bitch.
Yeah, I love how they go through the old school entrance and look at the crowd at Madison Square Garden. The Rock popped for that because he probably spent a lot of his youth there traveling with his dad or whatnot. This definitely feels like it's a chapter closing here for The Rock. He's really good in this match. A little unconventional, 2-on-3, but I think it's really cool that The Rock was in there in the history of WrestleMania with Randy Orton, Batista, and Ric Flair. The Rock loves Ric Flair and whatever. He looks up to him and whatnot. So I'm sure that moment meant a lot for him. But 17 minutes, Meltzer 3.25, Kenton 4, and I'm 4. For a 3.92 average, the 5th best Rock match at WrestleMania. It's a 5-man match. The Rock brought it. It's not like it was packed in and he didn't do anything. He had a lot of interactions with each guy. He played big with Batista. He played silly with Flair, and he played aggressive with Randy Orton. So he gave everyone a little bit something here. And of course, he was a really good friend to Mick Foley because Mick means a lot to him.
It's The Rock and Ric Flair stuff is just silly, but the crowd loves it, eats it up, and the crowd is cheering Flair, which is pretty funny also to think of the different reactions The Rock has gotten at WrestleMania. Here he's getting booed because he's beating up old Ric Flair. And the main story of the match is definitely it's the Orton-Foley feud, but The Rock's not a side character. He's a main piece when he shows up.
Yeah, it's a really good chapter to the first start of his, or really to the end of his run here. But he's back, and it's in a big way at WrestleMania 27. He is the guest host. He has his opening promo is a little long in the tooth, but he would, have sporadic backstage interactions with everyone. I personally like the Austin one. The Pee Wee Herman one's fun. Good. The Mae Young one is really good too as well. But ultimately, his job and role this night is to come and cost John Cena the World Championship against The Miz in a terrible match. But it kicks off a long feud for once in a lifetime. Not Hollywood Rock, movie star Rock now. Yeah. Like the 7th iteration of The Rock is back, and it does big business. I love the build with John Cena. Did it need to be a year? Perhaps, maybe not. But when they got into it, and this, don't mind you, this is in the midst of a PG era of the WWE, where it's just like Sesame Street and Dr. Seuss for the most part. And The Rock was able to adapt within that structure to have a super compelling feud leading into one of the biggest WrestleMania matches in a long, long time with The Rock and John Cena. Perhaps John Cena ate his ass a little bit leading into it, but, kudos to John Cena. But The Rock was game. He played, and I love the presentation leading into this match. 30 minutes, 35 seconds. Meltzer, 3.75 stars. Canton, 3.75 stars. And I don't care. I'm going all time, 4.25 stars. I thought they told a great story. For The Rock not being in the ring for 8 years, I thought it was well wrestled, and it delivered, and it built up, and the drama was definitely there. We were unsure who was going to win. We didn't know we were getting this twice in a lifetime, and they laid this out perfectly, and they really did have the crowd for the whole match. I really, really enjoyed this match.
Yeah, this I think was awesome. It's got, the year-long build. I think the way they do it the first time is it works. It's set up well. It makes sense. And the whole build into the match, even like at the Royal Rumble, they each get like training videos, just hyping them up so much.
Yeah, pretty cool.
And the match itself is just like heavyweight bombs. Like, I don't know exactly how many rock bottoms and attitude adjustments are hit, but They do them time after time. It's just big move after big move. Cena bust out a power bomb at one point, which is pretty cool. Just different maneuvers that you didn't see either of them do. And yeah, for a guy coming in 8 years after his last match, pretty something to go half hour deliver this level of match.
And I will say, I did watch this, and I do enjoy the Machine Gun Kelly lead-in, and I do enjoy the Flow Rider lead-in, actually. So it's really well done. It's a great presentation, for sure.
Yeah, even if you're not fans of that music, just the feel that, each guy has a concert before his match makes it.
Literally, like 3 songs each.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this one did great. It was a really strong buy weight. It did well over 1 million buys, so it was definitely box office and impactful. WrestleMania 29, though.
Yeah,
it kind of
twice in a lifetime.
Twice in a lifetime. It definitely. I don't want to say it took away, but it was definitely unnecessary. Yeah. 27 minutes in a vacuum. The match is pretty decent. It probably didn't have to be that long, considering The Rock tore his pec like 5 minutes into the match. But the structure of the match had a lot of callbacks to 28. And I like how Cena, when with the finish where he got caught with the rock bottom, this time he catches himself and then he catches the Rock with an 8A for the win. So I like the structure and the build of the matches individually, but it's just they didn't have the crowd. This is my first WrestleMania ever, and we weren't having it. We were pretty bored. I'm not gonna lie. But overall, Meltzer 3.5. Like, Dave, that's kind of wild. Canton 3 and 3.25 for myself. It's probably a weak 3.25. Maybe I did it out of respect a little bit. I'm a little, as you can tell, I'm a little high on the Rock here for a 3.25 average overall. What'd you think of 29?
Yeah, I actually watched 29 a couple of weeks ago. It's one of those ones that I remember not enjoying. And I'm like, maybe now, time removed, it'll get better. And no, it doesn't. I mean, those last 2 matches are just, they could have probably each gotten better with 10 minutes shaved off each of them. And maybe that helps a little bit. But the match itself isn't bad. It's hurt just by following the one they had the year before, I think. I don't get how Meltzer could say it's a quarter of a star less than 28. That's pretty crazy to me.
That's nuts. All right, and then WrestleMania 30. I absolutely love this opening segment. 30, it's a round number. Remember that this year when we go at WrestleMania 40 that we might get some shit like this. And if we get something that lives up to this, brother, in the Silverdome, I think that this was a mega moment. They did, again, kind of like 18. They really didn't have to do much.
No, but kind of roll those guys out there and they'll do it.
I love it. Was generational, and The Rock definitely 1,000% deserved to be out there, and he added to it, of course. I love this opening segment at WrestleMania 30, and it should be considered on his resume.
Yeah, definitely. I was there live, and you knew Hogan was going to come out to start because you could see
he's the host,
speakers and stuff. He's the host, and I remember saying the night before because we were watching the Hall of Fame kind of. I said, well, if Austin's there, he's going to have to get involved somehow. They're not going to just have him be at the Hall of Fame. And so then when Austin came out and then The Rock came out, it was quite the moment.
It was like, oh shit on top of oh shit.
Yeah.
And they were just awesome. They were probably riffing on the fucking vine out there, really, if you think about it. Silverdome and then Austin calling him on his bullshit. It was
great to be back at the Silverdome.
Yeah. Good shit right there. All right. And then 31, again, not a bad moment whatsoever. I like the build that they kind of were like, oh shit, are we going to get Triple H versus The Rock at 32 in Texas for that all-time arena? And they kind of played into that here. And then of course you have Ronda, who loves wrestling, sitting at ringside, fresh off her UFC run. She gets in the ring, big pop, big moment, lived up to the hype. And I think this isn't a negative whatsoever. I actually enjoyed this segment quite a bit.
Yeah, this is good. Maybe the Stephanie portion goes a little kind of long, but that's to build up her getting, her comeuppance. And The Rock actually, people didn't think he was going to be there because he hosted Saturday Night Live the night before and then flew cross country the next day. Yeah. And that SNL has the memorable, the live action remake of Bambi, where it's a gruff action film.
I'll have to check that out. I definitely remember it. That was like the heyday of my SNL. I haven't watched it in a few years, but that was I was definitely into it because that was around the 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
Or the 35th anniversary, excuse me.
Yeah.
40, excuse me, the 40th, because that was around the 40th anniversary. Yeah. Good shit. Good shit.
Yeah, it's good. The Rock, as always, gives you something when he's talking and works there.
And then 32, of course, we got the flamethrower and the Wyatt segment. And if they cut this in half, it's a little bit more memorable and better than what it is. But don't mind you, Cena comes out too. So there's definitely a lot in here. It's just too much. 4.5 hours into a bad WrestleMania.
Yeah, it is. I think it's just one of those moments. This is kind of what your worst fears would be hearing that this guy's on the board of directors now. You're like, oh God, is he going to do this every WrestleMania? Come out with a flamethrower to light up his name and dance with the Dallas cheerleaders, and yeah, it's just way too long, way too much stuff.
I didn't even rate the match. I didn't. You can't, and I usually rate everything. I just didn't think it was a dud. I just passed on the rating. That's on me. That's on me.
Yeah, I mean, the rating wouldn't really be fair. It would just drag down his grade with. I mean, maybe it's fair because it is a 25-minute segment that I would say is probably among his.
Out of his extras, it's definitely the worst.
Third worst thing, I would say, at WrestleMania. After 13 and 14.
All right, well, let's take a quick glance at his whole stats here and kind of digest The Rock and see if 6 is warranted. 11 total matches for a 3.38 star rating. He was in 5 main events. He was in 4 world titles, and he has 6 all-time matches. If there was one negative you would take out of his whole resume, what would you be to kind of kick him off of the 6th spot and perhaps move him down a list?
Say he debuts 6 months later. He debuts the night after WrestleMania 13, so we don't get that match, but still the same trajectory, I should say, where he's facing Shamrock the next year. Maybe that helps him a little bit. Yeah. Where he's starting with a hotter match.
Perhaps, but still 3.38 is pretty good for 11 matches, especially with 2 bad matches to kick off. Really, not necessarily his fault, but overall, I think the evolution of the Rock character really shines here at WrestleMania. We get every iteration of it, and even now as the final boss leading into WrestleMania 40, it's a whole new iteration of the Rock. So,
like I was saying, beforehand, this could, he's going to be around a while. Also, I don't think this is a one-off. So, 2-3 years from now, he might have 2 or 3 more great WrestleMania matches that might move him up 2 or 3 spots. Who knows?
Well, before we kick it off to the next guy, the Macho Man, I got a hot take for you, Rye. I think the Macho Man is a great WrestleMania competitor. I think he has a great resume, but I think The Rock's is better.
Yeah, if we're just talking WrestleMania.
You're a Macho Man guy too, mind you.
I am, yes. Macho's my number one guy, but looking at just the WrestleMania resumes, The Rock's got the Sultan and Ken Shamrock, but Savage has George Steele, Butch Reed. I mean, those aren't exactly classics either. So, and then I think The Rock has more. I mean, it's hard to say high of highs, but
Savage,
even if you were their top matches kind of cancel each other out. And I think The Rock ends up with more stuff then.
His floor is a little higher, and his medium is is definitely more beefy. But it's just definitely what do you want to weigh? Perhaps you weigh Savage because he's older and more important. He established the WrestleMania brand for sure, especially at WrestleMania 3, having that legendary match at Ricky Steamboat, going out there and showing that it's capable to have that big match on that big stage is more important than like the Stone Cold 3-match legacy or the the super rewatchable match with Hulk or the once in a lifetime match with Cena. That's perhaps you can make a case that's more important. The Mega Powers exploding may be more important, but there's definitely a case for either guy. My taste buds I don't want to put any bad on Savage, but my taste buds just feel like I digest The Rock's resume a little bit better, but that's me. I'd love to hear. I'm sure Aaron and JT are going to do a great job spitting on The Rock. or spitting on Savage.
I mean, you can't go wrong really either way.
We're splitting hairs, but we're also
great matches watching either of their resumes. So yeah, it's just a personal taste thing.
All right, before we throw them, Rob, what do you got for us?
I'm popping here and there with ChroNoSo when we get rolling on that. July of '89 right now. Yep. And on the Place to Be Wrestling feed, I do With This Ring with my wife Cindy, where we are chrono watching, and we're up to Backlash 1990.
A lot of Rock there if you want to hear Ryan Everett and the Rock. All right, guys, let's throw it to JT and Aaron. Ryan, thank you as always, buddy.
Yep, great time.
NoSo Connection. Welcome to NoSo Countdown. We are nearing the top. Number 5. 5th greatest WrestleMania performer of all time. JT and Aaron, the only choices you could have to talk about the Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yeah. You know, we're the only choices because I don't know about you, but I have the Macho Man Randy Savage's song as my ringtone for my phone.
There you go.
So
I got like this, like one of my 4 Macho Man shirts. I have that one. I didn't think to put it on.
For a while, I had like 4 just Macho, and they were just the rotation. Like, whatever.
So he's the greatest. He's number 1 on, I believe, was he still number 1 on your list when you redid it? He's number 1 on mine both times. Greatest wrestler ever.
No, because, well, he's number 1 on my favorites list. I couldn't in good conscience put him ahead of.
I mean, you could have. We already had that.
Not in good.
You go way back to the first video
conscience.
Ever. The first video ever on this YouTube channel. You can hear us debate it.
Right. Are we ranking his WrestleMania attires tonight?
Ooh. Well, haven't we already done that?
We did last year.
Yeah. So that's another video in the archives. You can go. No. We ranked all of Macho Man's WrestleMania gear in a tier ranker. Listen, we have so much WrestleMania content last year and this year. It's insane. We have tier lists. You and I alone have done what? WrestleMania vibes. And didn't we do another one? There's another one we did, didn't we?
Mm-hmm. It depends when this is airing.
Well, yeah, we get another one coming up. I thought we did another one before that. Maybe not. Marcus, I've done WrestleMania rewatchability. Ranking the builds. Marcus, I did that too. Ryan and I counting down every WrestleMania match ever from 402 to 1. Those are done in shorts. And then we had the WrestleMania previews coming up. Chad and I did WrestleMania 13 on Wrestling Warzone. ChroNoSo did WrestleMania 5 recently. So we have so much WrestleMania content during WrestleMania season. We're busting at the seams. But this is one of my favorites. And I really wanted to do this one with you because on the last time we were together in this countdown, we did Ultimate Warrior, who we're both big fans of in this cadence. That's and right. Also now, like we just said, our favorite guy of all time, Macho Man Randy Savage. And I mean, let me ask you this out of the gate. I'm gonna flip the usual format of this. Mm-hmm. Going into our conversation, and then we'll take the temperature again at the end of the conversation. Is 5 right, or could he have gone higher?
I think there's probably an argument he could be 1 spot higher.
Okay.
If who I think are the top, I don't know the list, right?
Right. Well, we know the top. We know probably the top 4. I think going into this by the time this airs, right? We kind of know what that's going to look like, and I think it's who you can assume. We don't have to name drop now, but it's who you can assume.
No. Yeah, and I think there's kind of probably 3. I think there's 2 that are like way above everybody because they bring the quality and they bring the importance. And then I think you got 3 guys, Savage being 1, that could kind of vie for that 3rd spot.
Right.
But that being said, I don't know if Savage wins it. It's tight.
Should he be lower?
I don't think so because I think, and you and I have talked about this. I think like he's such an important cog at WrestleMania at the beginning, and really for the first 10, he's like a very, I guess first one aside, obviously, but from 2 to 10, he's like super important on every single card, and I don't. You need guys like him. Like you need that guy who's not necessarily Hogan, but holding down everything else. And I think he's fantastic at it, and he's able to step up into that main role too. So yes, I think he's properly. I think no matter what, you're in the ballpark here.
Yeah, I agree. And he, I mean, to me, him and Hogan are WrestleMania, right? The first decade of WrestleMania. I mean, you look at the 1 through 10, the 2 of them are the top 2 most important matches almost every card, right? Savage maybe has one where he's maybe 3rd, but for the most part, it's the two of them are top 3 every WrestleMania for those first 10 as far as match importance. So we'll talk about it here as we go through Savage. But so let's what's your first thing you think of though when you think of Savage at Mania? Is it 7 for you, or do you have another memory?
It's 7, but I also think of the tournament. I think the tournament is a big thing. And, you know, I almost think he doesn't really get the credit for the tournament, because when we're looking at, like, we have the scores on the screen here, right? Yeah. And it's like we look at the tournament, and so we look at it in terms of he fights Butch Reed, and it's this star rating. He fights Greg Valentine, it's this star rating. If it's One Man Gang, this, DiBiase, this. But I almost think that, like, it's almost the wrong way to look at it. Like, I think it's like you kind of have to step back with Savage and take a look at his performance in the tournament. Yeah. Right. And, like, you know, if you're just rating his performance, like, you know how you might give someone a 4-star match or a 5-star match. I don't see how his work at WrestleMania 4 isn't at least worth a 4.
Right. He carries the entire show. More. I mean, he carries the whole show. I think him and DiBiase, Andre Hogan, right? The 4 of them really kind of, and maybe Bob Uecker, carry the whole show from beginning to end, right? I mean, it's his journey. It's his story. It's his elevation. So, yes, I think that night is completely built around him. Match quality aside doesn't really matter in that context. It's very similar to Deadly Games, another infamous tournament that's a great pay-per-view. That match quality doesn't necessarily matter, right? Like, to me, it's the story of the show, takes you through the journey of him, his first redemption arc. Oddly enough,
but good. Yeah, I was just going to say, but Savage is also able to bring it in ring for all the matches.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, if you look at the grades across the whole show, I mean, his stuff is probably like at least 5, like his 4 matches are probably 4 of the top 6 things in the ring on the show. Maybe Strike Force Demolition, and I mean something. There's another one in there somewhere, but
Jake Rude.
Yeah, maybe Steamboat Valentine, I guess, is pretty good. But yeah, there's oddly enough, one thing I think of is 10 with Crush. I don't know why that one stands out to me sometimes when I think Mania. Savage, like I think of him in the black and white. It's kind of like it feels like a farewell. When he's celebrating in the Paramount Theater, like later in the night, they show him with the fans and hog tying Crush. I don't know why that one just like kind of stands out to me a little bit. It's odd.
It was such a weird match at the time, like, and weird now in retrospect, because the Last Man Standings don't work that way anymore, right? Like,
it's more like what would become as like a Texas Death or like a Lights Out kind of match. Like it's more like that kind of. All right, so let's go through everything here. So we have Meltzer's grades. We got John Canton, our good buddy from the John Report. I want to thank him for lending his grades to us here. And then you, Aaron, you're on this chart as well here this time around.
That just shows you I wasn't supposed to be on this video.
I think Ryan did the old randomizer. So
it's all good.
I mean, WrestleMania 2, I'm a known George Steele hater. Watching all of like the Science Man events and pay-per-views makes it worse because they literally fight like 8 times in a row until like mid 87.
So much. They fight so much.
There's so many. And this is, I think, to me, worse than the match itself is the lost potential of doing the Tito title change here instead of Boston. Like you know, they do the title change a month before, like 6 weeks before this. Like they knew WrestleMania was happening. They wanted to give Savage the belt. Like Tito versus Savage at the show could have added so much to this card. And Savage winning the belt could have been such a cool early WrestleMania moment, and then played up the 1 year to 3, right? He's been champion that whole time for the full year, WrestleMania. Like, and you know, the Funk's tag with Tito is great, but like, you're not missing much if he's not in it. And Steele could have just been in Tito's corner. Like, he could still be there like he is a year later.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. Now, the only thing I'll say is that if nothing else, though, like it is one of the most consistently built stories on the card.
Yeah.
And it doesn't deliver a payoff, but you don't want that. You don't want that payoff. You don't want George Steele walking away with the title, or Elizabeth for that matter.
That's the thing. Right. I mean, who would want that really at all? So
I guess his kids.
Even them.
Daddy can be happy for once. He's not going to hurt us.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, that's, I mean, it's his worst by far, which is fine. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe the gang is worse, but it's,
no, I don't think the gang is worse because the gang is really short. Like,
and it's at least part of the story.
Yeah, and he's evading him a lot. The gang one's fine. Like,
what I hate about the Steel one too is the finish is stupid. Like, he should have beat him with the elbow, like the roll up with the feet on the ropes. I know it's a very Savage thing at that time, but like, anyway, all right. So that's
they're like beating the Memphis out of him during this period.
Right. It's just creaming it out. All right, WrestleMania 3, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. You and Canton are at the full 5. I'm closer to the Melts. I'm more of a 4.5 guy in this match. I recognize it's one of the best of all time. I'm not a
No, you don't.
I'm
You
not,
don't recognize it's one of the best of all
one
time.
of the best
You don't give it 5
intercontinental
stars.
title matches at WrestleMania of all time. I'll put it that way.
Sure. For me, what always stands out to me in this match, and this is actually a problem I have with a lot of modern stuff, is that like a lot of times in a modern match, it doesn't feel like anybody's trying to win the match. Right. With this match, what I love, and the reason why I don't think I'll ever be talked out of 5 stars for it, number one is the incredible pace. It's fast. Like it might be the fastest match I'd ever seen to that point. It's fast, and both guys are constantly trying to win.
Yeah.
And I mean constantly. Like I think there's like 30 pinfall attempts or something in the match. Like it's a crazy number. It's built on an insane blood feud. All-time happy moment with Steamboat winning. I think it kind of gets a bit diminished because he loses the belt so quickly after. But like at the time, like it's such a huge pop when he finally wins.
And I think it's like oddly similar to Razor Shawn at 10. If you start to debate the best IC title match in Mania history, those are kind of the two, right? And I think they're similar. So I think what it comes down to is like, which one do you identify more with as a fan, right? So I think a lot, either 87, 94. But I also think they've both been evolved into better matches, right? There's been better ladder matches in theory, right? They've evolved the gimmick. There's been better like go, Savage Steamboat style matches as well. But there is something to be said about being the first, and that shouldn't be punished because it evolved into something else, right? So like I'm a 5-star on Razor Shawn, right? So I get the 5-star on Savage Steamboat if it means I just don't have that emotional connection to me, like to draw out like what that moment meant. And I know the steal is the payoff, whatever, but it's kind of stupid too. All right, WrestleMania 4.
Just one more take on that before we jump on. Just like what I love, like, because you're right, there's been go since then. However, I think what this one does better still than a lot of those is it keeps the go in the realm of reality.
Right.
In that, like, I guess that's the argument. Go is often associated with Michaels and Kurt, right?
Yeah.
And their match is actually a great example of it, where like they're going and fighting and hard, but as you're watching it, there's always that little voice of like, oh, he can't get up from that, right?
I'll give you the real best go. I'll give you the real best go.
What is it?
A man called Goldberg taking on Brock Lesnar. That's a go. Yeah, that's the go.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel unbelievable to me. Like that's.
No, I agree. Beautiful. You know what? That's more in spirit to this.
Yeah.
Because what I like about this is that it's go, but like I never once doubt that like, oh, that's breaking the reality. It felt the closest to like an actual, I know it's going to sound insane, but it's the closest thing to real wrestling in terms what you can get in a pro wrestling ring.
Yeah. And he looks awesome in the robe. So there's that.
Oh, he's amazing.
All right, WrestleMania 4. I don't think we need to go match by match. I mean, we know the story, right? Like he comes in originally, who knows what the backgrounds. They're supposed to win, who knows? But the story of the night, him, Liz with the different outfits, him with the different robes every time they come out, survives round by round. Reed, he gets a help from Liz. You know, Valentine, he sneaks into the small package. One Man Gang is fucking stupid with the cane. And then he beats DiBiase with the help of Hogan, right? So, while it may look on the surface like he's not built in a strong way on that night, he's still surviving, advancing. And it also, to me, sows the seeds of the next year, right? Because deep down, this becomes a jealous man, right? That's built on rage against his best friend, who he thinks is trying to steal his woman, who he thinks is trying to steal his belt. And also, you know, there's some doubt that maybe he couldn't win that tournament on his own, right? If he starts to think about it, he's like, well, in that deep moment on his own, sitting on the couch, maybe having a beer, he's thinking,
I needed Hulk Hogan.
I needed help and everyone. I barely survived. You know, so like, I don't know. Like, I think that's like a low-key little piece that like almost jumpstarts his eventual descent into the madness that leads to the next year.
Yes. It's a man who overthinks it because, and you know, he's like that because like, Andre is clearly helping Ted DiBiase on the other side and making it unfair. But yeah, and look, I think we mentioned at the top, he's just got to get credit for carrying that whole show and being believable the whole show and being athletic the whole show. I think he's top notch here at WrestleMania 4.
Yep, agreed. It's his night. It's his show. All right, WrestleMania 5, it's the same thing, right? The whole thing is built around the Mega Powers exploding. It's an awesome match that pays off the moment. The story's epic. It's probably maybe a top 2, right? Greatest storyline of all time in company history, along with Austin McMahon. So it means so much to that era, to that stretch, that 1 year. The Trump Plaza back-to-back is awesome. It's such a perfect encapsulation of what that is. And you can just plot everything along the way to that moment. And I love that they tie it to every pay-per-view. Like SummerSlam, they're still buddies, but Savage gets that little look, right? Survivor Series is really giving that look. He's like, and Savage and Jesse calls it out, right? Rumble, the shit hits fight. And then they blow up on the main event, right? So, but it's like, it's just cool that you have these yard markers the whole way until they explode. And I love that they take Liz out of the picture early in the match and just let them go at it. It's
and it
really,
also
really well done.
It also solidifies a theme in Randy Savage's career. And if we talk about how that theme is his career is one story, the importance of Elizabeth in all of his feuds, right? Like she's ultra important to George Steele, which ties into number 3.
Yep.
She begins 4 by going in 1987, getting Hulk Hogan. She's there with him the whole time. And here she's the crux point between the two men.
Yep.
And I can't stress enough about how important this is going forward and how it completes the career in terms of his story later on.
Yes. All right, so then we go to 6, which I think on the surface, and you look at Thunder Dave over here with his 1.5, but you look on the surface and it's like mixed tag, Sapphire, but I think that does a disservice to how hot the Savage and Dusty Rhodes feud was, because the Rumble segment's awesome. I want to see Dusty Rhodes load Sapphire to the back of his pickup truck, as Brother Love says. Sapphire and Sherry, Dusty and Savage. Then Dusty eliminates Savage in the Rumble, which is gets a huge pop. They had the fight on TV. Then this is like, to me, it's the first mixed tag match of this setting. And it shows a continued descent into insanity by Savage. He's cosplaying as a king. He's got Sherry with him. He's just like completely gone, right? Yeah, he's completely gone.
Woman is a queen.
But they bring Liz out, and it's like, again, it's like needling this guy. Like, we got your ex. She's here to screw you. And she does. She costs him the match.
Dress.
She costs him the match, and then they dance, and she's smiling, right? So first she's smiling. So it's like, I just think it's a good story when you look at the whole thing, and the match is fun. It doesn't suck. I mean, it's like, it's a pretty good match, but nothing on that card is a great match. Nothing in WWF 1990 is a great match. The best match is like 4 stars for the year. So
the Rumble's the best
after that. After that. But it's like, this is how that year goes, right? So like, it's more about heat and excitement and story in 1990, and that has it all.
Yeah, and the amazing commentary to go with it too, and the crowd is super hot, and that's why I look at this and I think I'm low at 2.5. I'm like, how did I not go at least 3 on it? Because
it feels like a 3.
Yeah, to me the package is good. Like, it's a good package, right? So like, why would I shit on it? Like, yeah, because if I'm going 1.5, like Dave, 1.5 for me is like Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Hell in a Cell, 2004. Like that's a 1.5, and they're not even in the same stratosphere for me.
No, I mean, I know Sapphire is at least 2.5. Great dressing line. All right, 7. I don't. Again, we don't need to spend a ton of time on it. For me and you, we have it as like the second, probably top 2 best WrestleMania match of all time. Personally, we'll see where it lands on me and Ryan's list if it ends up holding in that top 5 spot, top 2 spot, whatever it is. It's an epic story. Epic moment. I don't want to talk about the closure of the moment yet, because I want to tell his story through the Manias in a minute. But I think all this needs to be said. Has been said. His performance of that match is iconic. Warriors as well. It's not a carrot job by any means. And then the post match is great. 8. I mean, another fantastic match and story.
Probably, maybe still the best blood feud at Mania ever. I mean, maybe Austin Brett, but that seemed to grow at a professional.
I got hotter later, really, but yes.
Yeah, like this feels like you fucked with my wife, I'm gonna murder you.
Yeah.
And it's 20 minutes or longer. It's like almost 30, right? To me, this is in the conversation as of my favorite matches of all time.
Right.
But to me, like it's perfect. Like there's a spot midway through where Flair does this flip in the corner, runs back and goes up the turnbuckle and jumps. And Savage, like, I think he was going for a clothesline, but it looks like he uppercuts him out of the air. And it's so, like, it looks so devastating. Flair sells it like death. and he gets like the closest 2.5 like you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
The level of cheating, and then Flair and Perfect and Heenan complaining about the cheating later because Savage has the tights.
Yeah, right. Even though they interfered 100,000 times in the match or whatever.
Yeah. I love that the match didn't end on an elbow drop. I love that he just kind of outsmarted him in that second.
That's Savage's style. He doesn't win a lot of big matches with the big elbow. Like he wins like the mid-level matches, but in the big moments, a lot of his wins are roll-ups, counters, cradles. Like that's a lot of what he does. And he's a resourceful wrestler. So yeah, it's awesome. I mean, the post-match is great. The promos are fantastic. Everything
what
about it.
Me? Huh? Me?
It's a great prime time. It's like 2 weeks after, and I happen to have it randomly on tape so I've seen it a million times. And it's the one at the table, like the round table, and they get the tape. It's when the tape comes out, and like it's Bobby and Perfect, and then it's like
he's so upset.
It's like Vince, and I think it's Gorilla and maybe Hillbilly, whoever's there, right? And they talk about the tape, and Bobby's like, check the tape. He's like, you can see the handful of tights, and Gorilla, I think it's Gorilla said, it's like the most wonderful delivery of all time. He goes, you know what else is on there? The 75 times you jumped in the ring, and Perfect like throws the thing up in the air or whatever. And it's like, again, it just speaks to like the whole how memorable that feud was, right? And you can just remember every beat of the whole thing. So
those prime times with that round table are some of the best stuff the company's ever done.
Like, I know. I wish they would get those up somewhere. I know they're probably on YouTube or whatever, but it's like that's like a lost year. Those round table ones. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah, because Bobby is so on Flair's ass.
Yes. Well, it's him and Perfect, like pretty much the whole stretch, just like being assholes at the table. It's great.
With Gorilla on the other side, like, oh, come on now.
And I think it might be Duggan on that one. It's like Gorilla and Duggan or something. It's so good. It's like such a random thing. Right. But all right, 9. He's not in the match, but it's an extra. But it's super memorable as well. He comes down to the sedan with the macho toga, and he is tremendous on commentary because he carries Ross a lot because it's Ross's burst. He's a little whatever, and Savage is like almost leading the show on that one.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he oscillates between heel and face on the show too. But that's the kind of character he was. Like he'd say things like, not at this show, but like, oh, he's got a salty past, and kind of like look up to it,
Right.
No, he's fantastic at 9, and I wouldn't want to forget that because 9, the problem isn't the commentary, like it's the finishes and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So I think he does well despite the garbage that's kind of in front of him.
And then 10 is a really good, it's a good final feud for him. It's personal in that him and Crush are positioned as friends for a bit before it is a really vicious heel turn. Crush really wrecks him. And it almost throws back to the Steamboat feud in a way too. There's so much always like synergy between all of Savage's stuff. Crush drops him across the guardrail. He fucks up his throat and jaw. Like it's kind of poetic, right? That someone does this to Savage now.
You say that. What I love about, we won't talk about it too much, but what I love about 7 when he fights Warrior is he starts replaying all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like he tries to do to Warrior what he does to Steamboat before WrestleMania 3.
Yeah.
So it's like he's not only is he performing in this match, but he's digging deep and telling us the story that like he's got to go into his pocket to use these things that have worked before. And it's brilliant.
Yeah, it is. And with I know sometimes you say, oh, you're overthinking it, you're projecting. But he planned so much and was so meticulous that I think a lot of it was on purpose. Like I don't feel like a lot of it's projecting what we want to see in it. And the Crush feud is, I mean, the match is good. It's fine. It's a good brawl. The crowd is into it. It's his farewell moment. So like, I think it's a perfect coda to his career.
I don't think he so I agree that I agree with everything you said about Crush. When you talked about him planning stuff, I don't know if he planned the arc out, but I think at the very least he did something that all wrestlers should do, which is when you're entering a new feud, he was like, okay, what's happened to me in the past? How have I been affected by things in the past? And how is that going to influence how I deal with this guy?
Yeah.
Because you see him change with everything and you see him move and adapt and weave. So I think it seems like such a small thing, but it's a brilliant detail in his work.
Agreed. And it's just, I think if you start to think of things that could have made this resume better, I mean, there's not much given the time frame he's in. I think a match with Brett at 9 or 10 is the one that's like the miss. I think we talked about Tito. I think Tito at 2. And then I think really if they would have given him that Brett match, I think Brett Savage at 9 was a spot to do it. I think 10 could have been a good spot too, but 9 really felt like Brett having to beat Savage you could still have Yoko win the Rumble, and just don't make the title shot on the line yet, right? So have Yoko win the Rumble.
This is the first time.
Brett has to get by Savage, and that like cements him as a top star, and just have Yoko beat Brett at King of the Ring. I mean, you can still get there, right? And then you can still do Luger if you want, whatever. But
and it even helps Hulk Hogan's case.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brett beating Savage there to earn like a respect handshake at the end of the night, like, okay, this is your promotion now. Like, I think that could have been a really cool Mania moment and match.
Do you think if that happens, so Brett beats Savage, they shake hands, do you think Hogan still has to come out and beat Savage again?
Oh, definitely. He's like, I'm going to beat you one more time.
Drop the leg on him and pose.
All right, so I really want to quickly tell this story here, and I want your thoughts at the end of it, okay? Because I think I want to make the case stronger for Savage, because I think there's a wonderful story told throughout all of his WrestleMania matches that connect, whether they meant to or not, when you look back. And there's other parts to his career that also tie together, but we're just going to do Manias. WrestleMania 2, he's the asshole boyfriend, husband, whatever, right? Berating Elizabeth. You got this dullard who's trying to like rescue her, but he's too stupid to understand how, right? So Savage, whatever, he keeps the girl. He's the asshole jock. He keeps the girl, continues to punish her throughout the next year. This dumbass finally hooks up with the cool kid at school, right? And they figure out a way to end Savage. Steele gets his revenge. You know, in a way, you probably think deep down, like Liz is probably actually happy at the result at the end. Over the next year, Savage starts to turn a little bit all the way to 4, but he's still not like a really good guy yet, right? Like he's like trying. So he has this record, this banner night. He starts to see the light. He's like, okay, maybe if I do the right thing, I can succeed. So I got Liz, I got my friend. Over that year, the friendship erodes. He becomes jealous, doubts himself. My best friend stealing my girl, all this shit. Gets to WrestleMania 5, it all crumbles in. He loses his belt, loses his girl. The jealousy caves in on him. He makes a life choice. Instead of turning back to the right side, he spirals, right? He meets this crazy chick who takes him down a path of insanity. And it's just like a fever dream, right? He's stirring a pot.
An enabler.
Talking to a movie star and pretending he's the movie star character.
Witches.
You know, he's acting like Zeus is real. And he pretends he wins the crown, becomes an actual king, and he's acting like a king. And he gets WrestleMania 6.
The common man.
Yeah, he fights the common man as a peasant, right? And but Liz comes back and foils him again, right? So he's screwed again. He's still with his nutcase. He gets his shit back together, finds himself in this blood feud, but he can't get the title shot again. Cost Warrior. In that match, he loses it all. Loses the new girl, loses his career, any chance at the title. Who's still there? Miss Elizabeth. They reunite. A year later, after they've gotten married, this other vagabond shows up, right? This playboy tries to steal her. He's going to defend her.
Damaged goods.
For the first time at WrestleMania, the first time he stands up for Elizabeth, like to another man, because he never had done it, even though he was nicer to her at 4 and even into 7. He never had to stand up for her and like throw down. He had with Jake in the fall, but not on WrestleMania. So he throws down with Flair, beats him bloody, leaves with Liz. Personal life kind of falls apart. He becomes like the elder statesman of the company, and he has one last friend betray him, and he's going to step back in the ring one more time to take this guy out. And he gets one last moment at MSG at WrestleMania. I think it's such a wonderful story with this weird coda at the end, which is fine, because you always get that weird guy at the end, right? Like Walter White saw to do with Uncle Jack, right? He wasn't like a main foil throughout the whole show, but he had to beat him at the end, right? So like, he's like Crush is like, all right, he's just kind of the guy we're going to beat at the end to wrap up this story. So I think I just think no one has that arc. Like you can look at Austin.
No,
even Hogan. Hogan does not have that arc through WrestleMania. No, every year,
Hogan's an idiot.
4, every year's like a new, or after 5, every year's like a new thing.
Yeah, and he doesn't learn.
No,
another friend, brother. Another friend is going to turn. Like, no. It's a beautiful arc. It's a beautiful story. Everything ties into it. It sucks. I mean, it doesn't suck because I would never trade that Flair match. But like the way he gets sucked back into wrestling is someone fucking with him at his wedding too.
Yeah,
and like
good.
Having to defend Liz from a maniac with a snake.
Yeah, if it would have been Jake, right? It would have been.
You know. But that plays into it because all of his career is about Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, no matter what, you know, the most telling moment of any Savage moment, the most telling, he goes into 7, they're booing the shit out of him. They hate him. He cost the Warrior, this and that. All the bullshit happens. The match happens. He loses. The stuff happens at the end. But before he goes, he takes that one step into the ring and looks. He just does this look over his shoulder like he's saying goodbye.
Yeah.
And the fucking crowd loses it. It becomes like pure babyface cheers.
Yep.
And like, he didn't really do anything to earn them in the match. Like, yeah, he reunited with Elizabeth, I guess. But like, it really spoke to how special a performer he was for us. That like, yeah, we booed you, but guess what? You're the fucking best, and you deserve to be the best.
And I think like I said, the only thing that could have maybe buoyed this is if he gets the torch passing with Brett, maybe in there, where you could say, now he's kicking off the new generation, because he's what they wanted Hogan to be, right? He kind of becomes that bridge guy from 80s to the new generation, because he's all in on the new generation. Like, he believes in the young guys. He's a rare old dude that's voicing support for the new guys, right? He loves 1, 2, 3 Kid, and loves Bret Hart. He loves Diesel. Like he's all in on those guys, right? So Tatanka,
and
like all of them.
And you saw the results when he went to WCW.
Yeah.
Because WCW, once you get past the initial phase thing, his WCW was really good. So he still had a lot to give. There was honestly, I think when I think back at Savage 2, one of the big tragedies of Savage is that they didn't honor him before he died.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about, like, you know, we have him at number 5 for the greatest WrestleMania performer. Without him, who knows if WrestleMania happens, right? Or keeps going. Who knows if Saturday Night's Main Event keeps going? Because all the rumors are like Dick Ebersol was like, these two are the ones, right? Savage and Liz. So I think that's kind of like this. Like, he gets that coda with Crush, but he gets that kind of sad coda at the end that like he should have been honored.
Right. He gets a Hall of Fame. He's not there. Like, that's really the end, right? And if you look at these Mania matches too, just to close out, he's top 3 at worst in every Mania. WrestleMania 2, I would argue he's the top 3 with T and Piper and Hogan and Bundy, maybe the Bulldogs, right? Whatever. He's at worst tie. At worst tie. Yeah. WrestleMania 3, he's top 2. WrestleMania 4, he's number 1. WrestleMania 5, he's number 1. WrestleMania 6, I'd argue top 3 at worst with Jake and DiBiase, him and Rhodes. And then I think Demos and Colossals are below them.
Okay.
WrestleMania 7, I think it's an argument he's actually number 1. I think Savage Warrior is a hotter feud than Hogan and Slaughter, and it has more of a history to it. But at worst, number 2. Like at 1B at worst, right? Yeah,
1B at 8 also, or 1.
Probably 1. I think it's bigger than Hogan Sid, because the storyline's a lot hotter and more interesting.
And Crush is 3.
Yeah, right. After the title picture / I guess Bret Owen title, and then Razor Shawn, and then Savage Crush. I mean, it's
and here's what kind of wraps it all up, because you're right about all of that, right? But when we talked about Savage as the number 1 entry in GWWE like 6 years ago, whenever we did it, the thing I kept coming back to was that no one's ever been better at making you care about him, the story, his investment level. No one has ever been better at drawing the emotion out of the audience. And in a sport where there's not a lot of that, to me, that's why he stands out so high, and that's why he's such an incredible performer.
And the stuff we're not even covering because it's not a Mania, right? But like that backs that up. It's like him and Jake, him and Andre, him and the Twin Towers doesn't really make. I guess they're a Survivor Series, but him and I had another one in my mind now. I just forgot him and Honky. Him and Bad News Brown. Well, like, those are all personal feuds that have that level of emotion to them. Jake is the biggest example, but I mean, there's others, you know, leaking in and out all throughout his run. Him and Duggan in '89 is like personal, right?
Repo
so
Man, 93.
Repo Man, he steals his goddamn hat. Like, that's a big deal. So, So anyway, I think that sums it up. I think that's a pretty wonderful tribute there to Macho at WrestleMania. And I mean, if you want to be romantic about it, I think he's number 1, right? But I get why he's not. Like, there's guys that have better resumes in ring and maybe mean a little bit more historically, right? Like, we know Undertaker's going to be ahead of him, right? I mean,
it's hard to put him ahead of Hogan. Like, it's hard because Hogan was so fundamental to.
Always behind Hogan.
I don't even know. Well, that's what I mean. Like I don't know the list, right? But like, you know, Hogan is so fundamental to WrestleMania almost in a way Savage is, but cranked up.
Yeah. And we didn't even talk about 2 at 8. Like, he finally also gets this moment, not only standing for Liz without Hogan or anyone over his shoulder, right? Like, it's like he finally, because he's become such a good man, at 4, he hadn't earned that moment alone because he hadn't really redeemed himself yet, right? At 8, he's done a full redemption over that year.
He's gotten bitten by a snake. He had an attack.
Right. He did everything, right? He went through his full redemption arc, and he gets his reward. He gets his moment alone with his woman and his title. And no Hogan, no bullshit. He's on his own, fireworks going off in his own world.
And the only time I've ever heard Finkel say, "and once again."
Yeah.
And the crowd went crazy. Like we never heard it before, right? Oh,
Yeah,
love that match. I might go watch it now.
All right. That'll do it. Stay tuned. We got 4 more to go in this countdown. We're almost there. We're almost to this year's WrestleMania. Check out all the great content here at North-South Connection. We appreciate you. Aaron and I are here every Saturday, no holds barred. We're doing tier lists. We're watching every WWE title change ever. We're doing Build the Cards, Build the Bears, all kind of cool stuff. Follow us on social media. Subscribe on this YouTube and share. We want to hit 500 by Mania. Help us get there. If we haven't, maybe we have by the time the stairs. I don't know. We'll see. But get us there.
Do it.
Love you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.